If you just spend a few minutes with me, maybe a spark will light up in your mind. And if that happens, I'll have reached my goal. So let's get started. Today, I want to talk about something that means way more to me than just a book. It's a story that, every time I read it, feels like a conversation, not just with the author, but also with myself, with life, and with all those little pieces inside us that we sometimes feel but can't put into words. The book is The Alchemist by Paulo Coelho. You've probably heard of it, and maybe you're one of those people thinking, ugh, that book is so stereotyped. Well, I used to think that too, but then I read it 100 times. Why? Because it's a real life story, a truth we spend our whole life searching for. Don't take that lightly. Santiago is a shepherd. That means an ordinary guy just living his life. He doesn't live in a palace. He's not a hero, just a man with his sheep moving from village to village. Then one night, he dreams there's a treasure buried beneath the Egyptian pyramids. Yes, the famous pyramids. In his dream, a child tells him, "Go there, the treasure is waiting." That's where everything starts. Right from the beginning, the story tells us this. If you don't have the courage to follow a dream or a little sign, you'll never know what it could have been. One part one can't get past is Santiago's meeting with the old man Melchizedek. He's an ancient king who only comes to you when you genuinely want to follow your dreams. The old man appears, sits beside Santiago, and says, "Follow your personal legend." The term personal legend sounds simple, but it's so deep. It means the one thing only you must do in your life, something made just for you, the work the world created you to do. The king tells Santiago that when someone decides to chase their dreams, the whole universe conspires to help them. When I first heard this, I thought, I wish that really happens, and honestly, sometimes I feel like it does. It happened to me several times. So Santiago takes a leap. He sells his sheep, collects his money, and sets off on his journey. He arrives at a town in North Africa, makes friends with a local boy who speaks his language, trusts him, and starts traveling with him. And what happens? Nothing good. The boy steals all his money. I pause here because we've all been through this moment in life. When you trust someone, place your hope in them, and then get crushed. This is exactly the moment where most people give up. They go home and say enough. But Santiago doesn't give up. He stays, works in a crystal shop, earns money, and rebuilds himself. This is where we realize that having a dream is just the first step. The brave part is holding on to it through the hard moments. Later in his journey, deep in the desert, Santiago reaches an oasis. There, amid tribal wars and chaos, he meets a girl named Fatima. He falls in love. But this isn't just a silly momentary love. No. Fatima comes into his life as if the universe itself planned it. Santiago feels something deep inside, something he never felt before. Not just love, but peace, a feeling of arrival. For the first time, he wonders if maybe he doesn't need to chase the treasure after all, and maybe he can just live a simple life full of love with Fatima. Maybe the real treasure is Fatima. Many of us also face things or people in life so valuable that we want to give up everything else. But right here, the alchemist enters the scene. The alchemist is like a wise man, a strange man who speaks little, but when he does, it hits your heart. One sentence of his has stayed with me forever. Love doesn't stop you from following your dream. It becomes your motivation. This is when Santiago realizes that if Fatima truly loves him, she will push him toward his journey, not stop him. The alchemist tells him true love means aligning your dreams with your partner's, and that someone who loves you won't hold you back, but wants you to be your best self. So Santiago decides to move on, to leave again. This is where many of us hesitate. When love and dreams stand against each other, it's a tough choice. But the alchemist helps him understand that real love doesn't mean stopping. If you stayed with me through this podcast, thank you. And if you found it valuable or connected with it in any way, I'd be glad if you showed your support. Now, the amazing scene. Santiago, the alchemist, and their group fall into the hands of a warlike tribe that suspects they might be spies. The alchemist says Santiago can turn himself into the wind. Let me repeat, into the wind. Many close the book here, saying, "What a pointless, useless story." But if you understand the metaphor, if you know this moment isn't just about magic tricks, but about becoming one with nature, about deeply understanding existence, then this scene becomes unforgettable. Santiago has 3 days. During those days, he talks with the desert, the wind, and the sun, and then truly becomes the wind, becoming one with the universe. I always think the author wasn't joking here. He meant to say that when you become truly one with the world and forget yourself, you can make the impossible possible. Finally, we reach the end. Santiago arrives at the pyramids, the very place he saw in his dream. Full of excitement, he begins digging, believing the treasure is there. But thieves come, beat him up, mock him, and their leader tells him, "I once dreamed there was a treasure buried near an old fig tree in a church in Spain. But who's crazy enough to leave where they're just because of a dream?" And at that moment, Santiago realizes the treasure was exactly where his journey began, in that church, under that tree, where he had his dream 3 times. This is the story's climax. We often think the treasure is somewhere far away, but sometimes it's right under our feet. But if we don't start the journey, if we don't travel, experience love, face betrayal, and become the wind, we'll never find our treasure. That journey is necessary to realize our worth. Every time I read this book, a different part catches my attention. Sometimes it's the king's words. Sometimes I can't leave Fatima behind. Sometimes I doubt myself becoming the wind. Sometimes I lose the treasure. But there's always something in this story that brings us back to ourselves. If you have a dream, follow it. Because even if the treasure turns out to be exactly where you started, you won't be the same person. You will have become someone who traveled, who failed, who loved, who learned, who returned, who changed, and that itself is the greatest treasure.